Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today as we conduct the March quarter shareholder update from Cleantech Water. And to join us here and talk us through a short presentation and highlight the achievements of the quarter is the Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Peter Voigt. I'll hand it over to Peter to run through the presentation, and we'll have a time for a few questions following the end of the presentation. Over to you, Pete.
Hi, thank you very much, Peter, and good morning, everyone. And thanks for joining us on the call today. As you heard, I'm Peter Voigt. I'm CEO of Cleantech Water. So today I'd like to walk you through where we've ended up in the March quarter, what we've delivered, where the business is heading, and what we think is really one of the most exciting moments of the company's recent history. Look, I'll keep my prepared remarks fairly tight to around about 10 minutes, and then we'll open up for your questions. But the headline I'd really want you to take away from today is a pretty simple one. The things we said we were going to do, we're doing, and the work coming our way is getting bigger and more repeatable as we go. Now, next slide, please, Pete. Just very quickly, there's the forward-looking statement. It was very quick. We're not going to read it out, but have a look at it later on. It's the standard wording you'll find in all our presentations. So, as we got now onto the financial performance slide here. So let me start with the numbers, because I really think that the financial trajectory is telling us a really clear story, better than anything else. So the cash receipts from customers in this quarter were up 16% on the previous quarter. So more importantly, we delivered operating cash flows that were positive this quarter, and they were meaningfully positive. Our cash balance has grown again, as you can see, and that's not from a capital raising, that's from execution. So what this really tells you is that the business is genuinely shifting from a phase where we're investing in pilots, business development, early stage engagements. We're now into a phase where our customers are paying for us to deliver real projects at real sites. The receipts are getting larger, the cash conversion is improving, and the balance is in better shape today than it's been for quite some time. That gives us the capacity to deliver the portfolio we currently have under contract and to even take on more work. But let's be straightforward. One quarter doesn't make a trend, but the direction's the right one. And it's consistent, and that's what we've been telling shareholders we expected to see as projects moved from design into delivery. So next slide, please, Pete. I think this is where the story really comes alive. A few months ago, we announced phase one contract with Nyrstar in Europe, which is one of the world's largest zinc and lead smelting groups. This quarter, we secured phase two. That's a substantial expansion worth about 10.4 million, and it advances our Deselex technology into execution in Europe. This is exactly the kind of land and expand pattern we've talked about for some time now. When we delivered on phase one, our customers have come back for more, and they've come back at scale. In Ireland, our project, the Denver, is now entering commissioning. That's a phosphate removal plant. I think you probably remember from last time we were talking about that. And this is a really meaningful first step to the European market for our MBIX platform. And it's been delivered with the kind of timeline we promised when we won the work. In South Australia, our Heathgate project has reached practical completion. We've met or exceeded every performance criteria in the contract. So now we have an operating uranium reference site in Australia. And reference sites are how this business grows. Customers want to see something working before they sign up. On the tailing side, remember we were awarding our first feed contract for our ATA platform, and that feed has now been delivered. That's an important moment because until now, our ATA has been bundled with our water treatment offerings. Now the customer is saying, we want this technology on its own merits. So please cross us up the plan. That's commercial validation on the second pillar of our IP platform, of our IP portfolio. Next slide, please, Pete. This slide, in my view, is probably the most important picture of where Cleantech is right now. What you're looking at is 6 active projects across 5 countries, every single one of them running on the same MBIX platform. That word platform, I guess, is doing a lot of work here, and I want to spend a moment on it because I think it's really central to how we think about our business. Historically, every water treatment plant had tended to be and feel bespoke, a one-off engineering exercise. What we've built with MBIX is a modular technology backbone that we can configure for very many different applications. So on this one slide, you have phosphate removal in Ireland, you have hardness removal for Rio Tinto in Latin America, a desalix module is handling sulfate and selenium removal for Nyrstar in Belgium, uranium recovery in Australia, scandium at Sunrise at Syerston, and lithium extraction in the Middle East. 6 projects, 5 countries, 3 different end markets, water treatment, critical metals in one platform, and the emerging ATA is the basis of our second platform. What that is repeatability. And repeatability is what a technology allows a business like us to scale without linear cost. So each new deployment adds revenue, adds reference data, adds confidence for the next customer. The Nyrstar Phase 2 award is the cleanest example of this compounding effect, but it won't be our last one. I'd also like to draw your attention to where these projects sit in their life cycle. Enva is in commissioning. Rio Tinto is heading into construction. Nyrstar is moving into execution. Heathgate is complete. Sunrise is approaching its financial investment decision. And our pilot scale lithium extraction plant in the Middle East has met all its KPIs. This is a portfolio that's maturing, moving from the left side of the curve to the right side, and on the right side is where the cash flow lives. I just want to single out Sunrise for a moment because it's one of the more material catalysts in front of us. The Sunrise Syerston project is an Australian scandium critical minerals project that uses our process technology. Our work this period is to deliver the updated costing that feeds directly into the client's financial investment decision. A positive FID will put a substantial Australian critical minerals project into execution, and it will deploy our IP at a scale into a sector with very real strategic momentum behind it. Next slide, please, Pete. Just a quick word on ATA, because I think this is one of the more underappreciated parts of our story. ATA is our rapid dewatering and filtering tailings technology. And the reason that this matters is that the global mining industry is under increasing regulatory and social pressure on how it manages its tailings. Conventional tailings dams are becoming harder to permit, harder to insure, and the longer-term liabilities are enormous. Filtered tailings, which is what ATA enables, is the direction that the industry is moving. This quarter, we were awarded our first standalone feed contract for ATA with a mining client here in Australia, and that technical work has now been completed. This is a flagship opportunity for the technology, and we're putting a lot of focus on it. I want to be measured about how I describe where things stand at the moment, because the appropriate channel for any update on this is the ASX, not this webinar. But what I'll say is more broadly is that the path from feed into commercial deployment is the milestone that takes ATA from a validated technology into a revenue-generating business line. That prize we're working hard towards, and you'll be hearing more about us in the coming quarters. ATA also complements MBIX beautifully. A mine site needs both clean water and tailing solutions. Being able to offer them both from the same provider on an integrated platform is a differentiator that very few of our competitors can match. Next slide, please, Pete. So let me close on what shareholders should be watching for over the next 12 to 14 months or so. In the near term, between say now and the middle of this year, there are several milestones to watch for. Enva finishing commissioning, continuing progress with our ATA opportunity, the updated Sunrise FID costing being delivered. The last two are really matter the most in the medium term as a value for this business, as both have the potential to be quite transformational as they convert. In the second half of the year, the headline events is really around that FID decision for Sunrise, and a positive outcome that would unlock a lot of substantial scope of work for us in Australian critical minerals. Alongside that, we expect the Rio Tinto project to move into construction, and I think we'd see some further development on the DLE pilot work that we're looking at in the Middle East. And we're actively building our European pipeline around Phosphates and the other area, which is the Bionex. So that's nutrient removal for wastewater treatment plants in Europe. And we expect that to become a meaningful growth industry for the business. And looking further into 2027 and beyond, the prize is, say, a commercial scale DLE plant, having Enva established as an operating reference site, a European pipeline that's really maturing and growing, having Nyrstar Phase 2 delivered on the ground. So all these things aren't vague aspirations, they're really quite specific, they're dated milestones. And the track record we've built over the past several quarters is what we'll put when we put a milestone down like this. We work really hard towards it to hit it. So just next slide, please, Pete. So let me bring me back to, I guess, where I started. Our message today is really straightforward. We're doing what we said we'd do. The work coming to us is getting bigger, it's more valuable, and it's more repeatable. The financials are starting to reflect that. The portfolio is maturing, and the platforms, the MBIX and the ATA, are no longer concepts. They're really commercial businesses with paying customers in multiple countries. So I must thank you for your continued support. With our Sunrise FID and our Australian ATA projects both in advanced stages, the next two reporting periods should be pretty eventful as any other in the company's recent history. So we look forward to that, and I'm really happy to take any of your questions. So thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Peter. That's a good presentation, and really the pipeline looks wonderfully pregnant, I may say. The first question I have here is, Sunrise is considering an expansion case from 60 tonnes per annum to a further 120 tonnes per annum. How does this affect the expected contract value for Cleantech?
Well, that's really a question for the Sunrise people, not for me. But certainly any expansion we'd be involved in as well. So I guess depending on where the Sunrise exec team ends up with how they're going to build this plant, certainly the first phase though is the one that we're concentrating on at the moment, which is 60 tonne per annum. So that's where the design is done, but it's a modular plant, so it's easily expandable.
And I think, would you say that scalability is one of the key strengths of Cleantech's technology?
That's correct, yeah. We're tending now to design in what we call trains. So a train, we get to a maximum number of tonnes out of that train. If we replicate that, double it, triple it. So very easy for companies to start small and then get bigger and bigger as they go. That's one of the things they really like about the technology.
Peter, a question regarding HYROX. How does Cleantech Water's HYROX technology validate with the NESR plant pilot deployment? Okay, so we have a single plant in the Middle East. It's in a fairly, shall we say, inconvenient zone at the moment for us to visit and update. Now that's a full commercial scale plant. So at the moment that one is not in operation because of the what's happening over there in the Middle East. But we have now been commissioned to build a modular pilot scale plant that will be deployed in Saudi Arabia, and we're working towards that one. Probably in the next 3 to 4 months, you'll see that being delivered, and it will be working quite specifically in the oil and gas sector in the Middle East, and there obviously the idea of pure water is a big thing in the Middle East. So we're very, very hopeful that it's going to be a successful introduction of the technology into that area. The next question states, Repeatability and execution is a huge plus. The history of the industry is in unique solutions. How is your cost estimation, and are your contracts fixed price or cost plus or risk shared?
They're generally fixed price contracts, but we are moving into, we might even do a couple of cost plus contracts going forward. Of course, our longer term aim is around licensing technology, but at this point in time, fixed cost is the way we go. But with repeatability, obviously, being able to get the margin between your GP and your NP up is what we're really looking for, and that repeatability does give you a greater NP at the same cost of goods. So that's really where we're trying to push to. If you're doing something for the third time, you're certainly going to be much, much more efficient at it than you were the first.
Peter, perhaps a pipeline question. One of the slides there showed quite strongly that there's early stage, medium stage, and under construction type of projects in the pipeline. What can you talk about the flow of leads coming in through your business development program into Europe and within the engineering industry itself?
Yeah, no, we've got a very strong pipeline. We're being a lot more particular about what gets into our pipeline nowadays. So if it's not fitting the criteria around our water treatment or our critical minerals area, we're tending to say no. So, but we're still in the hundreds of millions of dollars in that pipeline, and we know that when we're close to the client and we start doing work with the client in the early stages, they're the ones that we know we can push through to completion. And the good part about it is now we've got a number of clients in the front door in the areas of the critical metals, uranium, rare earths, etc., that we're now working with closely in the early stages of their projects, which leads us then into being a partner with them as they deliver. And that's very, very comforting for us. It's quite different to what I would say we were seeing a couple of years ago.
See another question here. The Arafura project, Peter, can you give us a bit of a background on how that is progressing?
Yes, yeah, Arafura has come to us with their own unique approach to looking at rare earth extraction and separation. They've recognised our experience in the world of ion exchange and separations, and they've asked us to actually run their piloting campaign for them. And we've been running that now for probably the past couple of months, and we intend to work closely with them. That will grow, I think, over the next time. But for exact information on what those outputs look like, that's going to have to come from the Arafura folks, not from us. But yep, all good.
And quite a high-profile customer or client that would be. Peter, that's a pretty good quarter. The financials are looking solid. The pipeline's looking full. What is your particular focus right now? And you did mention it before, but what shareholders should be looking forward to, but perhaps just emphasise the coming months for the market to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I think that the next quarter will be quite important. It's quite a heavy revenue quarter. So, and we have all these projects banked. I'm really looking forward to both the ATA project coming on board at some stage and also the Sunrise project. Those two coming on board would certainly be very significant for 2027 for Cleantech and set us up very well.
Both big headline projects. Peter, that'll conclude our question portion here. I will remind people that this is being recorded and we will make it available on the website later on. And if you have any other questions you'd like to send to Peter, email them to me, peter@nwrcommunications.com.au. Otherwise, I'll thank the audience for coming along today. And Peter, thanks for giving us a great summary.
No worries. Thank you very much, Peter, and thanks to everyone.